I come from a rural state, the state of Vermont, where people often travel long distances to their jobs. Many of these workers earn $10 an hour, $12 an hour, $14 an hour. And when the price of gas goes up to $4 a gallon, those people are being hurt. That's money coming right out of their wallets that they can ill afford. Further, it's not just an individual consumer issue. Our country is struggling to get out of a terrible Wall Street-caused recession, and high oil prices are impacting our ability to do that. There has been a major debate over the last several years as to whether spikes in oil prices are caused entirely by the fundamentals of supply and demand, or whether excessive speculation in the oil futures market is playing a major role. That debate should be put to rest. Let's look at the facts. The supply of oil and gasoline is higher today than it was 3 years ago, when the national average price for a gallon of gasoline was just $1.94. The demand for oil in the United States is at its lowest level since April of 1997. Internationally, during the last quarter of 2011, world oil supply exceeded demand by nearly 2 to 1, while crude oil prices increased by over 12%. The issue is not, in my view, supply and demand. There is now a growing consensus that excessive speculation on the oil futures market is driving prices up. That's not just our opinion. ExxonMobil, Goldman Sachs, the IMF, the St. Louis Federal Reserve, the Saudi Arabian government, the American Trucking Association, Delta Airlines, the Petroleum Marketers Association, Confederation, Consumer Federation of America, and more groups understand that what we're dealing now with is excessive speculation driving oil prices up, not supply and demand. Interestingly enough, Goldman Sachs, perhaps the largest speculator on Wall Street, recently came out with a report indicating that excessive oil speculation is costing Americans 56 cents a gallon at the pump. I personally think that that is low, but it is interesting that is coming from the largest speculator on the oil futures market themselves. Last year, the CEO of ExxonMobil testified at a Senate hearing that excessive oil speculation contributed as much as 40% to a barrel of oil. Gary Gensler, the chairman of the CFTC, has stated publicly that oil speculators now control over 80% of the energy futures market, a figure that has more than doubled over the past decade. In other words, the people who control the oil futures market are not the people who use the product. It's not the airlines, it's not the truckers, not the fuel dealers. It is people's oil speculators whose only function in life is to make as much money as they can by speculating. They don't use the product. Just a few examples. In June 30th, 2008, information was released about who controlled the oil futures market, and that was when the price of oil was over $140 a barrel. On that day, June 8th, 2008, Goldman Sachs bought and sold over 863 million barrels of oil. Morgan Stanley bought and sold over 632 million barrels of oil, etc., etc. We have got to make sure, and what our concern is that oil prices reflect supply and demand, not Wall Street greed. The legislation that we are introducing today, and that includes Senators Blumenthal, Cardin, Franken, Klobuchar, and Bill Nelson, requires the Commodity Futures Trading Commission to use all of its authority, including its emergency powers, to eliminate excessive oil speculation. The emergency directive in our bill is identical, interestingly enough, to a bipartisan piece of legislation that overwhelmingly passed the House of Representatives by a vote of 402 to 19, including 170 Republicans during a similar crisis in June of 2008. So we already have bipartisan support for this concept. Many of you know that the Dodd-Frank bill included language which said that the Commodities Future Trading Commission must deal with excessive speculation in the oil futures market by January of 2011. They have not yet acted, and that is unacceptable. What our bill requires is that the CFT invoke its emergency powers within 14 days to curb immediately the role of excessive speculation in any contract market within the jurisdiction and control of the CFTC on or through which energy futures are traded. 2, eliminate excessive speculation, price distortion, sudden or unreasonable fluctuations, or unwarranted changes in prices or other unlawful activities. Millions of American consumers are hurting. They are looking for Washington to stand up for them, to help save our economy, and that is what we intend to do.